So let me introduce you with the next speaker, or the first speaker of this section, Oskar Woehr. And Oskar is an international trainer and entrepreneur who loves to help people transform their ideas into reality through coaching and training. He's hosted the Learning Experience podcast about the art and science of learning and currently hosts the Authentic Entrepreneur podcast, where he deep dives into the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. When Oskar is not facilitating online workshops, he's building a go-to NFT project on mindfulness and personal development. In addition, Oskar moderated all 8 Teaming Up online workshops, so you know him. You should at least recognize him. Presentation is going to be called Online Workshops, What are the Best Practices and How to Deal with Online Environments. Oskar, stage is yours.
Thank you. And so good to be on stage again. We've been online for so long. So good to see everybody in person. And thank you. Today I want to share with you a little bit behind the scenes for all the students of how we went through these past few months and what went into the process of creating more engaging online workshops. But first of all, I know some of us went out late or we were partying, and just to settle in to today, because I know some of you are still thinking about what we were talking about just before, we're just going to do one thing. We're just going to take one deep breath together, okay? Because this will bring us into the present moment. So please breathe in through your nose and breathe out slowly through your mouth. Because oftentimes we're thinking about what's going to happen, what did we just do, and it's important to come into the moment so you can fully pay attention and learn. When Anna and me confirmed that I was going to help moderate the online workshops, she told me, remember, these are Nordic, North of European students, so they're probably a bit more shy than what you're used to in Spain. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. My mom is Swedish, I can relate, and I totally understand what you're talking about. But then, during the first workshop, when almost none of the students had their cameras on, and I decided to be super high energy and put them into breakout rooms, I quickly realized this was way outside of the comfort zone. So after that, we had to adapt and be a bit slower into how the workshops were happening and not put everybody into breakout rooms straight away. So my name is Oskar. For those that don't know, I do training and coaching, helping people become more mindful and understand what they want to do in life. I also host the Authentic Entrepreneur podcast, and I just love creating impactful online learning experiences. So today I want to share with you a few things about how to increase the level of expression and engagement from teachers and learners, about how to foster a safe space for online learning, and show you some tools for how to make online learning more magical. So, here's my face. This is me being super expressive. I know if you've been in a lecture or in class, who's here has had a boring lecture that you almost fall asleep with? Raise your hand. Yeah, well, almost anybody. And now, imagine if that's happening online. If your speaker, your lecturer is very monotonous and not sharing very much online, then it's even easier for students to get distracted because they have their phone right in front of them, and there's TikTok and Instagram that can probably teach them the thing that you're trying to teach in 5 seconds. So it's super important, especially in the online world, to be more expressive, be higher energy, and yeah, keep people engaged this way. And what we know is that because of mirror neurons, which is the neurons in our brain that help us to connect with people and feel other people's emotions, that if you are expressing yourself and being high energy, then the people watching you will also feel similar emotions. And emotions are very important for learning because what we feel, we remember more. And I want to share with you a very awesome experience, a study that was done during the online training festival. It was found that participants' starting state in the beginning of workshops had a significant impact on their satisfaction level of the workshop. So basically, in this festival, which was constituted of over 100 online workshops with over 1,000 participants, it was found that if a trainer created some kind of very engaging start for the participants, then the satisfaction level of the whole workshop was more increased, which is awesome. And how do we do this? I want to teach you a short framework that a coach uses called Dean Graziosi. It's called Story, Teach, Action. And starting with the first point, we need a story for how to engage people. Maybe you've all heard of Simon Sinek's Start with Why. This is very similar because the story creates the why, the point of connection inside of the learner's brain as to why we need to be learning what we're learning. For example, when we were talking about marketing or finance or whatever we were doing in the last few months, if you can create a point of connection of why is this going to be useful for your business, then it'll help you to connect more about what's about to come right after, the teaching parts. And this is also why I started with a little story for how we didn't start the first workshop in the best way, but now you understand why it's important to create online learning environments. And then the second point is about teaching. So this is basically handing over the process or the teaching material that you want learners to receive. And of course, execution is the most important point, as learning without actually doing is useless. So make sure to have people put into action what they're learning. Then some other fun ways to increase participation and make online workshops more engaging. As we know, when we're all in person, it's usually just one person speaking at a time unless you're doing small groups. But in the online learning environment, you can have a lot of people speaking at the same time, especially if you're using Zoom chats or online tools, different websites like Menti or Kahoot. And I'm going to just share a few of these if you haven't heard of them. Mentimeter, the first one. This is a very awesome tool where you can create different polls or questionnaires. And this allows learners, participants, to all participate at the same time. And I'm going to show you how we did it on the next slide. Then Kahoot, I'm sure you're all familiar. This is just fun, makes things more gamified. And then one that I learned last week, which is why I wanted to include it, is called Chatterfall. This is not an extra tool you need. You can do it on Zoom. And Chatterfall is a really awesome way of having everybody participate in the Zoom chat. So imagine that you ask a question. You say, what does a good business look like? Let's say that. And then you can say, everybody, let's type our answers in the Zoom chat, but without hitting enter yet. So you give people maybe a couple minutes to enter their answer. What does a good business look like for you? And then only when you say your magical word, let's say business, then you tell everybody to hit enter at that moment, and there will be a huge flood of just everybody's answers coming up, and it'll be like a waterfall of answers on Zoom. I thought this was really beautiful when a friend shared it with me last week. And you can even take a few minutes for everybody to read the answers, to put on a little bit of music, and enjoy. And this way, everybody feels engaged, and everybody can have their words put into the Zoom chat, instead of just randomly sitting there with awkward silence. This is Mentimeter, and this was one of the last polls that we did, asking how are you feeling about the final pitching event happening yesterday. As you can see, many people were super excited, feeling cool, but there were 4 people that answered that were feeling maybe a bit anxious or with the zipper on their mouth emoji. And these people needed to be heard. If the students didn't get the opportunity to express themselves, then they might not feel included. In learning, it's extremely important that everybody gets a chance to express their voices in order to feel more included and be part of the workshop or the online class. So this is why I love to use emojis, for example, because they're more inclusive and people can just point out how they're feeling. And even if we're not going to do too much with this information, at least allowing them to express themselves makes them feel included, as I was saying. And also, in case you want to check in with someone, you can ask them, hey, are you feeling all right? Do you want some breathing time? Stuff like that. So, allowing participants to express themselves increases psychological safety and the feeling of being included. And psychological safety is basically being able to show and employ oneself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. So, by the way, if you haven't heard, psychological safety is one of the most impactful factors in productivity in companies, as with a study done by Google. And this is why I wanted to focus on it a little bit during this talk. Psychological safety basically is what the definition is saying, is that it's helping people allowed to express themselves without fearing that their peers or people around them will be judging them. So, some ways to create psychological safety is basically to make it an explicit priority. This was something that we could have done, but making it clear for everyone to help everybody speak up. This is what online tools can do. Establish the norms for how a failure is handled. This is more for maybe companies. Creating a space for new ideas, and even wild ones, so that people can really go crazy with their imagination, and then embracing productive conflict and facilitating that more easily. So, some way to make online learning fun. Maybe I'm sure all the students recognize this. One way that I love to do it is just in the beginning, you always have that little awkward 5-minute waiting time for everybody to arrive. So why not make it a bit more fun by having the students or the people just draw. You can just put up a black and white image, and on Zoom you can annotate, so people can draw however they want, and this just allows time to pass a bit more smoothly and for people to start getting engaged as soon as the Zoom world starts. So putting on music in the background helps too. Then, as a bonus, I wanted to share with you another awesome tool that I learned last week, which is called the Zoom VIP showroom. This is where, if you want, you can have people basically show you what's in their background of Zoom, which is crazy. Because oftentimes we're just in this little box and we have a different background, and the Zoom VIP showroom allows people to show what's in their room, in their kitchen, wherever they're showing. And you can take them on a tour. Like if you have a laptop, you have the participants just walk around, and of course, making it super explicit and clear that you don't need to show everything. You are the VIP showroom handler, so you can turn off your camera whenever you need. But it's a very fun game to get people engaged and to show people around your house, for example. So, some takeaways. Basically, I wanted to share with you how to create different situations for participants to express themselves, either in groups, individually. You can use emojis or text. And then there are many ways to be more engaging, which is making sure to be more expressive online, especially compared to the physical environment, and making sure that students know why you're teaching what you're teaching. And the last part, that there are many ways to make it more fun. Remember, we're not just this upper half of a body inside of a screen, but that's what I was for everybody since October until yesterday. And as a good coach and educator, I want to make sure that you take action and keep on learning. So I have 2 podcast recommendations for you. First one is about, First one is about the tools and methods to create more engaging online workshops. So this one has even more tools, and it's on a podcast called The Learning Experience. And the second one is about fostering psychological safety, and this is the person who told me about a lot of the awesome tools that I just mentioned in the previous slides. And that is all for my presentation. If you would like to learn more, please feel free to scan the QR code, and thank you very much.